Good morning, Giovanni.
Good morning.
And hello to all the people that are watching live. I'm sure there are thousands of you out there. I'm going to quickly just introduce this session and then we'll dive in. My name is Tim and I'm joined by
Giovanni.
Giovanni, and Giovanni is well known as probably one of the foremost gurus in how to use QGIS and how to solve problems.
I'm not.
And welcome, Hans, to the chat room. This is a totally informal session, so we are not going to be like trying to give you like a Steve Jobs presentation here. This is more just a hangout, and you can throw any questions you like at Giovanni, but we don't promise to be able to answer everything. So although I've hyped up Giovanni a lot in the Twitter and what have you promotions for this session, there's a lot of stuff that happens in QGIS that be difficult to answer off the fly without going and doing some serious investigation sometimes if your problem is complicated. So hello Nelson, hello GeoHub Nepal, hello Geo Jaffe and Cesar. Okay, and all welcome here. So Giovanni, do you have anything to say before we dive in and look at the questions that are coming in?
Well, yeah, maybe just to present myself, maybe.
Good. Yeah, please do.
Well, yeah, my name is Giovanni. I'm Italian, but I live in Portugal since quite a long ago now. And if you don't know, Tim also now lives in Portugal since last year.
Yay!
So it seems that Portugal is it's a nice place to where to move. You are invited. I'm just a normal guy. I'm not a QGIS developer, so don't ask questions about very technical question about QGIS development, because probably I would not be able to answer. I use QGIS since long ago. I first approached QGIS it was 2005. It's in very early days. And then more seriously, I started a few years later. And what do I do usually within the QGIS project or community? Well, my role, so to speak, I like to do a lot of testing. So test for new functionalities, or especially test for bug reports when they are reported on the QGIS bug tracker. So I spend quite a lot of time doing this job. Is that mainly a triaging job. So we can confirm or not if there is a real issue in QGIS, and so then the developer they can waste less time when they want to tackle a problem and try to solve it. I also reported a lot of issues in the bug tracker along the years. I would say that it should be more, well more than 1,000 bug reports. This is also because I I do usually a lot of QGIS training. And so while preparing training classes, or sometimes it happened also during training classes, it happened to find a problem, and then these problems were reported. And actually, most of them also were solved. That is, of course, very good, and it's one of the strengths of QGIS. So another thing that I want to clarify that I think that we are very fortunate because QGIS it's getting better and better every day, and I think that this is should be clear for everyone. It's a very large and complex program right now, and the days where it was possible for a person to follow and know well all functionalities of the program are long gone. There are areas of QGIS that I personally don't know very well. For example, I'm not really a 3D guy, and I have yet to explore seriously the new time frame framework. Just to make a few examples, it's really a big problem, big software with really a lot of functionality. So it's harder to follow everything. So I think that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think you've been. How long have you been in the project, Giovanni?
Well, I remember that was already very into testing and triaging by 2009.
Okay.
I remember that, well, not important, but I remember that I was already by that time I was trying hard to clean up the bug queue in the QGIS bug tracker to so to remove all the noise that already at that time we had in the bug tracker. So it's quite a long.
So let's try a pop quiz on you. If you, without looking at the issue tracker, do you know how many tickets are currently open and have been closed in the issue tracker?
Well, yeah, we have around open. There are around 3,200, and I think half of them, more or less, are feature requests. So they are not all issues. And but about the parts that are bug reports, I think that many of them, if not most of them, are very old, and I believe, because I look at this list of reports from time to time, that many of them probably could be closed, and this is something that I plan to do, not one go. It will take quite a lot of time, but I think that actually the real bug queue it's less than the 1,500 that we have more or less now in the bug tracker, because we have also very old, really very old tickets, and there is always the $1 million question that yeah, there is a ticket that is 10 years old and actually it is still valid, but if in 10 years it wasn't fixed, maybe there is a reason, maybe it's not so important bug. So the $1 million question is, should we leave it open? Should we close it? Well, it's not up to me to, to really to decide. It's up mainly to the developers.
Here's another pop quiz for you. What do you think is the date of the oldest ticket in the queue at the moment?
Sorry, can you repeat? Sorry, can you repeat?
I said, here's another quiz for you. What do you think is the date of the oldest ticket in the ticket queue at the moment?
Well, we have tickets that are more than 10 years old. They are well into the first decade of 2000. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen. I don't know if you can see it on the thing, but so I can see one here from 2007. And yeah.
Yeah, well, this is a good example because there are quite a few of them, of the oldest ones that are, for example, about the GRASS plugin. Well, of course, GRASS was and still is, the GRASS integration was and still is a very important part of QGIS processing capabilities. But since, in my opinion, since GRASS is integrated in the processing toolbox, the GRASS plugin kind of
faded away.
It's less important than it was before. Of course, probably there are quite a few power users that disagree. I personally, I'm a GRASS user when I need it, because so I'm of course a big fan of it. What is when saying that the GRASS plugin, the old integration of GRASS into QGIS, it's still there, but I think that it's kind of unmaintained. The main developer that used it to maintain it, Radim, I'm not sure when was the last time that working on it, and I'm not sure if anyone else actually working on it since. So for example, this is a good example because it is about a functionality we have in QGIS that probably it's one of those things that should be discussed about its future. I don't know. Maybe at some point we decided that as it is mostly unmaintained, it should go and leave GRASS only in processing. And at that point, probably around, I don't know, 100 bug reports or feature requests in the bug tracker could be closed.
So I think it's not. Yeah, if we clear the filter here and we see, I mean, I think given the complexity of the code base, we've got 20,500 tickets more or less that have been closed already. And if you look at you subtract the feature requests, having 1,500 tickets open, I mean, it's a lot, but it's probably not. I mean, I think it's quite an indication of what a good job the developers have been doing to try and keep those numbers low.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And actually, I think that the very bad bugs are usually solved very quickly. So it is quite rare nowadays to have a very very big problem in QGIS. Something, I mean, that can affect virtually any end-user. Well, of course, we, as a user, we all tend to think that that specific bug that affected us is the more important one. Yeah, I remember that at the beginning of me using QGIS, I used it for quite some time to think like that. Then, of course, I learned that we should look at the big picture, and so we have to put things in
perspective.
Yeah.
So should we dive in and ask you some questions? And we put some softball questions because some of the questions people have been asking have been a bit hard to do on the fly. If you are still watching the live stream and you want to ask anything, send me a tweet. I'll have a look in on my Twitter feed every now and again, or put your question into the wiki page. You see I've got a collection of questions here.
Actually, I would. You are right. There are questions that would be hard to answer on the fly. Maybe what I can do, it's in the wiki page in the upcoming hours or days, is to try to elaborate question in a written way.
Mm-hmm. If you have the time, or we can have another session another time, like in the next SACFest, where all the questions we didn't get to, we can look at. That would also be fine. So let's start with some easy ones, which I put some softball questions in here for you just to get us warmed up. So I often get asked about user profiles, and for example, when people have a problem, there's usually a mailing list reply that says, delete your profile and start a new one. Well, actually, they should be saying, start a new profile, not delete your profile, and test with no plugins in your profile. So I was going to ask you, could you maybe just do a little demonstration? I'm just trying to stop my screen share here.
So I have to share my screen, correct?
Yes, if you can.
Okay, let me try. I'm still seeing yours.
I tried to stop my... Is mine stopped now?
No.
I'm trying to understand how to stop it again. It's not really obvious. But you should be able to share yours anyway. So there's an icon in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen.
Yeah, so just a second. Entire screen, allow.
Hey, we're seeing your video. Okay, there we go. Okay.
Wait, can you see my...
Yeah, we can see your QGIS now. Great.
Okay, so this about profiles. It's a good question, and it's so as you said, profiles. It is something that is frequently pops out frequently on the backtracker, exactly because, as you said, when we check for a bug report, we frequently ask a user to create a new user profile. Okay, so for people that do not know, okay, when you launch QGIS, let me open my home folder. When you open QGIS, whatever the operating system you are on. It is created a folder in your system user profile, okay? So where this folder is created, it depends on what operating system you use. Here I am on Linux, so when you launch QGIS, it's created a folder called QGIS that it's located in local share in the home folder of the system user you are using. Then there is a QGIS3 folder. This because eventually you can have even a machine where you can still have QGIS 2 point something installed. And so you see that inside the QGIS3 folder, you have a profiles folder. And by default, you have a folder called default. So this folder, it is where are stored specific configuration of the default user that it's created when you launch QGIS for the first time. And inside here, there is a lot of things going on. So configuration, color ramps, color scales, and processing models, and authentication related stuff. And also you see that there is a Python folder, and inside the Python folder there is the plugins folder. So here is where third-party plugins are extracted and installed when from within QGIS you install a no plugin. So if I install whatever no plugin, oh, I had it already. Okay, if I install no plugin, not a good one. Okay, I installed a plugin called Numerical Digitize, and you see that there is this new folder in the plugins, in the QGIS plugin folder. Okay, so so far so good. What you can do actually, since QGIS 3, is to create new user profiles, okay, without deleting the already existing one. Okay, until QGIS 2, we had just one user profile. There was no way to create multiple ones, so there was just one folder for the only profile that was being used. And in QGIS 3, actually, you can have multiple ones, and each profile will have its own profile folder, okay, and this means that it will have its own set of configuration. So plugins, scripts, models, toolbar position, it is all custom for a specific user profile, okay? So you see that in this default user profile, I have a few plugins installed. The toolbar are some kind of position, okay? And what I can do is to, if I need, I can create a new user profile, okay? a new instance of QGIS starts, and you see that the user profile, it's a completely vanilla one, it's a stock one, so I don't have any plugins installed. The toolbar's position is reset, and so how this can be used? Well, this can be used because you can have a profile defined for very specific tasks. Okay, so in one profile you have one specific set of extension installed with a specific set of toolbars enabled and specific position. Then maybe the day after you have to do a completely different kind of tasks, and you can have a profile that it's optimized for these other tasks. Okay. So you see that now here in user profile, I have the default one and the new one. Okay. If I close the other instance, and now I ask QGIS to open the default profile, so you see that I get the other profile with the plugins that were already installed with the toolbars in a different position. And what about when we ask in the backtracker to try if a specific issue it's still possible to get a specific issue with the new user profile? Well, this is mainly because of third-party plugins. So the API, the QGIS API that allows developers to develop plugins, it's not in any way limited, meaning that it can always be used in a way that potentially it can create problems in QGIS. For example, it can crash the main program. So when we when we are checking for an issue, what we want to know it's if the problem that is being seen it's in any way related to a third-party plugin. Okay, and the easiest way to do that then is to create a new user profile and then test again your project, test again your workflow. Okay, without any third-party plugin, without any old configuration, without any legacy script or whatever, so in a completely clean state. And then, of course, if the problem is confirmed, we can say that probably it's a real QGIS issue. I don't know if it can be said more than that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe one other thing to add is that one other use case for the profiles is it, like some people want to have a way to switch like personas, like digitizing setup and whatever, analysis setup or whatever. And they often ask us, oh, can't we have these personas? Well, you can do it with the profile, although it's maybe not the most, I think it would probably still be nice to have this persona thing because you have to put all the same plugins and everything else into each profile and deal with like, different copies of QGIS starting up. But yeah, that's great. I think, yeah, that's a great overview of why we have profiles and why it's nice to be able to have a blank one for testing and validating that an issue is really QGIS related. Yeah.
It's very nice because for testing purposes too, other than of course for practical purposes, because until QGIS 2, when we asked the user to try a clean state of QGIS, we had to ask the user to delete the this folder created by QGIS when it is started for the first time. And actually, that wasn't nice, because a user inside this folder could have already have created a lot of stuff. I don't know, scripts and models and customization and authorization credential and whatever. So we had to ask the user to delete the folder, but before deleting it, it was necessary. Maybe it's suggested to do a copy of it, not to lose everything. And so from testing point of view, having profile, it's very nice, of course. But the main reason profile exists it because of this different kind of personas, different kind of tasks that can be that you can have within your QGIS installation.
Great. Maybe let's move on to the next question. I think that's awesomely covered. Thanks. So the next question we had was about processing models and processing workflows, and I wanted to know could you explain a little bit about the processing framework, not the toolbox so much, but like how to almost add your own entry in the toolbox and create your own models and so on. Could you like do a quick run through of, like, let's say I wanted to add a new tool in the toolbox there. Like, is it possible to do it, and how do you go about doing it?
Do you mean creating plugins for the
no, I meant like just using the modeler to create a new.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there could be a lot to say about the processing toolbox. Well, it's a huge part of QGIS, of course. Well, maybe it could be interesting to also say something about the history of this toolbox.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tim. Sorry.
Okay. Let me just take your email off the public screen quickly.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, we'll just take a quick break. Maybe I'll start chatting while you're sorting that out.
Sorry, just a second. I have to leave just a second. I'll be back.
Okay. I'll carry on answering the question while Giovanni had to rush off somewhere. So the question is basically how to add new processing tools in the toolbox. And I want to make sure that I'm using the right version of QGIS here. So the history of the toolbox is interesting because it, maybe somebody in the chat room can tell us when QGIS Hackfest in Lyon was, but I think it was maybe in 2012 or something like that. And Victor Olea came to the Hackfest for the first time. And he had been working on the Sestanti project. I hope I said that right, Sestant. Where he had been working on a similar toolbox to what we have now in processing, and it was part of like it was a Java-based processing framework. And then he came along to us and said he was interested in getting involved in QGIS, and we said, well, come along and get involved. And so he started. Just created an infinite vortex there. He started creating the processing toolbox, and it was like a big change for us, because until then we had processing tools which were all built differently. So we had like vector tools, which were built using Python bindings for GDAL, Ogre, or for Ogre. And we had raster tools, which were built using Python bindings for GDAL. And then we had a whole bunch of tools that had been built sort of separately under the vector menu, all these sort of research and geometry tools. And they were kind of like in a bit of a mix and match kind of setup of just different implementations. And so having the processing framework introduced allowed us to have like a unified way of creating tools that could be put in this toolbox. I think, Giovanni, you've come back. Are you back now? Okay. So what we got was this toolbox. And in the toolbox, there are connectors for a whole lot of different frameworks and toolkits. So you can see we've got GDAL here, for example, and we've got GRASS. And if you have Saga and a few other things installed on your system, you'll get also tools that come off all these third-party great open source GIS projects. And so in a way, we provide a one-stop place to be able to use all these different tools without having to go through the learning curve. So for example, if you use a GRASS tool, it will automatically create a map set and do all the GRASS things that need to happen in order to run that tool and make it invisible for you as you run that tool. That was great. And then I think also Victor introduced this thing called the modeling toolbox. And this, the graphical modeler, sorry. And the graphical modeler added a way to create like an acyclical directed graph, or basically a flowchart, which runs through a sequence of steps and executes them one by one. And you've got the ability to add different types of inputs and different algorithms. And the algorithms you'll see are all the same things that are in the processing toolbox. So in the same way that you could just go and run an individual thing, let's do a buffer, for example. You could run an individual buffer tool here. Let's go back here and search for buffer. If you've got the buffer tool here and you see the options here, this can become one building block in a whole workflow that you're creating. So if I go back to the other window here, and I look for buffer in the algorithm, you can see that it's exactly the same tool as there, but now I can drag it onto this chart and create it as part of a workflow. You'll see the same options more or less, but there are some nuances. You've got these little buttons next to each input. So let me just close, let's go back here and open it here. I have to close that one first. See, if I open it here, I don't have those buttons next to the inputs. That's basically when I just want to run the tool in a sort of outside of the modeler. Inside the modeler, when I run that tool, then I can tell it where the inputs should come from. And the inputs have their different options. I can say I want to put in a hard-coded value, or it should be from one of the inputs from the model, or I want to just select it from a layer that's loaded. Or I can actually say I want the input value for this tool to be the output of another algorithm. So if I go along to the inputs here, I can go and choose something like, for example, I want to say I want to have a layer. And you'll see the different types of layers. I can choose a raster layer or a vector layer, or I can choose a generic map layer as well over here, which could be then both a vector or a raster. And when I have the layer added here, I can say, if it's a vector layer, I can say it should be of a specific type. And I can say, give it a name, trails or something like that. And then it becomes an input, gets this green color. And then I can chain together inputs and algorithms. So I can take my buffer algorithm here, and I can say over here that I want to use the model input trails as the source of my buffer. Let's do like a 1 kilometer buffer. And then you've got all these sort of standard options for doing a buffer analysis. And at the end of it, you can say, like if this is the final result, let's say buffer is output, and let's also dissolve the results there like that. And so what you get is this little chart. And some people have built charts like this with like, or graphs like this with hundreds of items in them. And when you've made this, you can then give it a name like demo buffer or something like that. And I can put it in a group. So you'll see I've got a group here called Tim. I've made lots of buffer demos for people over time, but that's okay. One more won't harm. So when I do that, then I can save it. And now the question that we had before about the profiles comes up again, because you can see now that by default, I don't actually know if it goes by default into your current profile, but I always save these into the current profile that I'm working on, processing models folder. And then you can build up a collection of your own analysis workflows. Buffer, let's call it something like that. I think it automatically adds the model 3 on the back, but you can also put that on if you want to. So now I've saved this, and if I go and look in my models here, you'll see that I've got a new tool in the toolbox. So if I open it like this, I get this very nice simplified tool, which will run the workflow that I just showed in the other in this window. So you can run it from in here, or you can run it just as a tool in your toolbox. Are you back, Giovanni? Just say hi when you come back. What's interesting is that you can then build workflows made up of other workflows. So if I clear this one again, just go back here, and I create a fresh one, and I look in the algorithms, you'll see that, let's search for buffer. You'll see that the models that I've created before can now be treated like algorithms on this workflow. So I could actually make, I mean, it will be a bit recursive, but I could go back to my inputs and add a vector input like this. And I could say trails should be a polygon, sorry, a line. And then I can take that algorithm and drop it in here and say that it should take from a model input and call it something like amazing buffer as the output. And so I basically made a tool which does the same thing as the tool that I've wrapped here. But I hope you get the idea that you can actually take all your own custom built tools and incorporate them into these graphs and save them as a new name. So you can create like a meta processing algorithm and then run that. And what's nice about breaking it into pieces like that is that if you want to go and edit just one small part of it, you don't have to understand the whole full chart, and you can actually make the graphs much simpler by just encapsulating a bunch of steps into one node like this in the chart. Giovanni, are you back?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe you can add anything that I missed. I don't know how much you got there. Should we try to run our algorithm and see if it actually does something? Okay, there is something. We get this sometimes. I think it's a bug actually, Giovanni, that sometimes if you give it a custom name, you get that little message, or it doesn't like the space in my name or something. So now it's doing a buffer by calling my buffer tool. Yeah, what did you want to say?
No, nothing. I was just trying to catch up.
Okay, so what I did was I just made a processing algorithm, saved it, and then made another one, which use that as a processing, as one of the steps in the processing flow.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might have killed QGIS because it's taking a very long time. I can see that some processing.
Well, maybe one thing that can be said or added is that actually there could be also plugins that add new functionalities to the processing toolbox.
Yep. Well, I think my buffer was a bit crazy. Let's. Yeah, I just got basically a big brown box at the end. But yeah, so you can have plugins that add new processing tools into the workflow. And actually, we had another question was about something relating to that. So they wanted to know.
What was the question?
Somebody was asking about how you can use Python in your processing model.
Yeah.
I lost the question, but
yeah. I'm
is there a simple way that you can use Python? Just like, I guess they're imagining something like where you create a model and you have an algorithm which says Python, and then you can type some things in a in a box or something.
Well,
some Python
this is
in
an
box.
interesting question because I remember that I think that it was until I think QGIS 2 in the processing toolbox we had among the other groups that were available, there was also one that said Python scripts. So it was clear and obvious that you could add or add your own scripts or import pre-existing scripts. And in QGIS 3, I don't think that. I'm not sure if this functionality, the support for custom Python scripts was removed, or if actually there is a different path to go to achieve that. Maybe someone in the chat in the comments know more about that. I'm not sure if there is if there is Niall or Alexander Brui listening. They are the two most important
maintainers
of the processing toolbox.
Well, yeah, so you can do this one here, which is to export your processing algorithm as a Python script, and then you can save that in your profile directory, and you can tweak this and then bring it back in again, and it creates like a if you do an empty one like I've done now, you'll get a boilerplate Python file where you can go and implement your own processing steps. Or if you want to see, I think if we want to go here like this, if you put a few inputs on here, let's use our vector layer example again. Trails. Let's say that was the input, and then you go and export that to Python, then it should show here. You can see where my font has gone a bit weird. I don't know why. That must be some other bug with the Q scintilla, something like that. Let me put it just into a text editor. Let's see. Of course, now the font is too small to read, but we can fix that quickly by making it big like that. Yeah, so you can see that it creates this, like from the input that I created, it puts all the plumbing, all the basic stuff for adding the parameter to your algorithm. And then you can just write the, you put the implementation in here, and then you produce some results and outputs at the end. And then you can save that and make it part of your processing chain. But
yeah, but actually, I remember that in previous QGIS releases, among the other groups that we had in the main toolbox, so not in the modeler, there was an option to add or import Python scripts.
okay.
So my only doubt is that if this functionality was removed, maybe because it was I don't know. As I said before, there are a lot of things, always a lot of things going on. So it's, sometimes it's hard to follow, or even if maybe there is a different path to. Well, no, actually, I think that we have the answer in front of us. So if you close the modular window, Tim.
Yeah.
And if you open the toolbox, if you yeah, you see that in the upper toolbar, the second icon, it's a create no scripts. So yeah.
Yeah, and this is doing similar. Okay, that gives you no how can I say, no boilerplate code to start from. This one gives you the boilerplate, so you can choose whether to start from an empty one or a pre-created one.
Yeah.
And you've got some other options here to add a script to the toolbox. Yep.
Yeah. Maybe
great. We had one more question in the chat room from Luigi, was asking about
Luigi Pirelli,
the one and only Luigi Pirelli. He was asking about if you've got a database table from PostGIS, and it's an input in a processing model, and I can't have it as input to load in a project or to do other action as layer. So I think let's see what he's trying to say there. So,
yeah, I'm also not sure.
So he's got a model and he wants to bring a PG table in as input. So that would be like just a sorry, there's a table. Database table, and you'd have to choose the connection and all that kind of stuff. I don't have an action. I think you have to have it set up in your project. I'm not sure if I'm in a fresh profile or not. But then he says you can't have it as an action to load as I can't have it as input to load in a project or to do other action as layer.
I'm not sure what it means.
Yeah, maybe Luigi, you can clarify for us for a bit what you mean there, and then even you can join the Jitsi chat and show us on your screen. Maybe just now, if you like, I'll give you the link.
Maybe, Tim, I can share my screen so yes. I can add something to the previous question. Maybe I can. There is something that I can say about this Luigi's question, and
okay, your screen is now being shared.
My screen. Okay. So, speaking to complete what Tim explained about the processing toolbox, so you can have among the plugins, you can have plugins that actually add new functionalities to the processing toolbox. This is one example. I'm sorry, I'm showing an example that where I was involved in its development, but it's an example that I know well. So I installed this plugin called PostGIS Geoprocessing Tools, and you see that what it happens, it's this third-party plugins adds a new set of functionalities within the processing toolbox.
Is this your own plugin? I mean, from your company?
Well, yeah, it's a bit of a shame that I'm showing this, but as I said, it's an example that I know well. Actually, I did it not alone, because again, I'm not a developer, so I had a very good help of Alexander Brui in doing this plugin. But we did it mostly for fun, and actually this is a plugin that, for my surprise, had a good success in terms of downloads. There are like 80,000, yeah.
Wow.
So, but it doesn't really matter what the plugin does. What I wanted to show is that you can have a third-party plugins that adds new functionality to the processing toolbox, and these tools can enter in your workflow made of models or scripts or whatever. And I wanted to show this one because maybe it is related to the question that Luigi was asking. I'm not really sure, but I give it a try. So this is a plugin that what these tools do is to process PostGIS inputs, and actually the processing, it's not done locally on QGIS, but it's done in the server where the PostGIS layer comes from. And the output also, it is stored in database rather than being exported on the fly to shapefile or GeoPackage or whatever. And I think that a limitation of this approach of outputting directly to the database is that as far as I remember, after the output layer has been saved into the database, it's not possible to immediately load it in the project. But I may be wrong, and also it may be the case that it is now possible to do that. So I'm not sure.
I think I've done this before where you can load it. I think there's an algorithm which is a SQL layer or something like that. Can you search SQL? Execute and load SQL. I think it's that one there. And then what I did before was, but maybe it was a bit hacky, but I ran some things in the database, and then I ran like a select query on the results table, and but I used a fixed table. Like I always ran it into a known table, and then you can run just a select star with a geometry, whatever you, and in here, and then it will load it into your project.
Okay, so again, maybe I just said something that it's not anymore true. So it's normal to be surprised for the best.
Yeah, there's so many things you can do.
And
I did invite Giovanni to come, Luigi to come and show us if he wants to. Luigi, if you're listening, I've sent you the link in the Telegram.
Okay.
Join us.
Actually, maybe I can show here another plugin that maybe will allow us to answer the question about this one. Can you explain all this projection grid stuff that pop-ups when you open a layer?
Great. Let's have a look at that.
So
I'm going to just
okay, we are back.
I think we're back. Yeah, maybe you can move your mouse around or something, and then
yeah, can you see?
Yes. Yeah, I think we're back. Okay, great. Sorry about that. Jitsi dropped the connection. Hopefully we didn't miss anything too exciting, but Giovanni was about to show us about projection grids.
Yeah, okay, this projections are quite complicated, quite complicated matter, and not easy to always understand exactly what's going on with projection. But basically, here to simplify or oversimplify the question or the matter, you should know that when you load layers in QGIS, these are reprojected on the fly in a coordinate reference system, and this is the coordinate reference system of the project. Okay, the reprojection is done between two different coordinate reference system, or possibly two different coordinate reference system, and the precision of how this reprojection is done, it depends on the definitions that of the coordinate reference system that are being used in QGIS. Okay, so if I, for example, open here a layer from Portugal, let me check. I have something, probably not here. So this is a specific coordinate reference system here for Portugal, and here you have the proj definition of this coordinate reference system, and you see that in this definition you can have parameters and the specific part of the definition where you have a set of numeric parameters, and these are used to make the transformation in between two different coordinate reference systems more precise. Actually, there is so the precision it can be good. It depends on each case, but this reprojection on the fly can be good. The error can be quite small, but usually there is always some associated error to this operation, to the reprojection. And actually, there is a way of doing reprojection that uses a more advanced technique, so to speak. So that is called the grids one. So there are some binary files that are called reprojection grids that can be used in the projection definition, and this makes reprojection layer from one specific coordinate reference system to another much more precise. And until QGIS 2, if one wanted to use this technique to do on-the-fly layer reprojection in QGIS, had to create custom coordinate reference systems. So it's something that it can be done in QGIS, okay? And so we had to create a custom CRES with the proper definition, and this string had to include the path to this binary file, this grid file, that could have been stored wherever in the file system. So it was pretty tricky to do that. It was not impossible, but it was also not the easiest way to achieve that. Well, in QGIS 3, there is
Giovanni, just the screen share is not showing on the stream, the one that you've got. Maybe could you just stop and restart your?
No, not sure. Let me
share.
Let me share again. No, it was running.
It was running, but it was showing this picture that you see now. The
okay. Okay. So can you see now my screen?
Let me see. Still not.
No.
It's still showing that picture of the town or that aerial photo. Can you try to share your?
I'm selecting share entire screen, allow. I'm sharing.
They're saying I must try to stop my sharing, maybe. I don't know how to stop my sharing. That's a problem. Did mine stop now? So we're still seeing basically your browser.
Yeah, I understand, but I'm not sure. Here the share now is stopped. I'm try to enable it. I'm not sure what I.
It's still sharing. It's still sharing your screen somehow.
Yeah. What I can do, I should reload the jitsi page.
Yeah, just maybe reload the page. We'll wait for you to come back. While we're waiting for Giovanni to come back, we can say hi to Luigi, who joined us. There we go. We've got your.
Can you?
There we go. There we go.
Okay,
That's better.
So
maybe you could just step one back quickly, just because they missed the part where you create the manual grid. If you could just show the custom projection.
Yeah, what I was saying is that in previous QGIS releases, if you wanted to use this grid technique to do on-the-fly reprojection, what you needed to do was to take the original definition for a specific coordinate reference system and create a new custom one that among the other parameters have the parameter that pointed to this binary file, this grid file, that do magic and meaning that allows to get a much more precise reprojection. Since QGIS 3, it is different. It's much easier because what it happens that if you have a layer in some specific coordinate reference system, and for the project you choose another coordinate reference system, and in between these two coordinate reference systems is known to be available a set of a list of possible reprojection with different type of parameters that allow to get better precision, then QGIS will pop up a screen like this one, okay, and it will ask you what parameters you want to use, and you see that it's nice because it shows you what is the precision that you can get choosing one or the other. And in this case, this one that says 2.5 meters of precision do not make use of any binary grid file. Okay, it is just a set of numeric parameters specified here in the projection definition. But if I try to choose the other one, the more precise one, okay, QGIS warned us that to achieve this kind of precision, we need a specific grid file. This grid file have this extension GSB, and also points us to where to download them. Okay, there was a very nice effort to, there always been, but I think that there was a push lately to create a repository where to centralize all these grid files. So a user
Where do you put it when you've downloaded it, Giovanni?
Sorry?
Where do you have to put it once it's downloaded?
Good question. I think that, well, there is for sure a folder. When you install QGIS, you install also the GDAL proj library, and there are a few of these grids that come by default on each GDAL proj installation. So it is a system folder. It's where the GDAL proj files are located. And
I think it actually goes straight in your user share proj folder by the looks of.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, exactly. So that place, that folder, it's probably good. On Windows, of course, the path would be different. But I'm maybe saying something wrong. I'm not sure. I think that also they could be placed in the QGIS profile folder. I'm not totally sure, but I think that should be possible. So once you have these grid files in the right place, okay, this red warning message will not show because everything would be in place, and you can safely choose the transformation, the reprojection that guarantees you the most precise operation.
So before you close, if you don't want to download the file, you can take the second one.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need the file. You lose some accuracy, but you can work straight away without having to go and fetch some extra files.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, we can add something on top of this, because it is related to the processing toolbox too. And as in past QGIS releases, it was difficult to use this grids technique to do reprojection. We ended up as a QGIS, as Portuguese QGIS user group. We ended up creating a plugin for the processing toolbox that made easier to do this operation. And then we extended this plugin also for other countries, okay? And this is still installable and usable in the processing toolbox. Sorry, settings option. Don't know because this was not active by default. So you see that here we have a list of countries. We have a few contributions from other countries. And you can choose to do raster or vector reprojection. Oops. Okay, and you have, of course, to choose your input, and then you have to choose what is the coordinate reference system of your input, and what is the what is the coordinate reference system you want to give to your outputs, and what is the coordinate reference system of your input, and then you can have this grid file from. Sometimes you can have this grid file from different sources. Sometimes it's just one, and sometimes are more. And then the process is done by running OGR to GR. That is this fundamental tool, and the plugin actually downloads these grid files and places them in the QGIS profile folder, and that's it. So it's really easy. What is the difference between this plugin and the process we showed before? That this plugin creates new outputs, okay? So it's not to do on-the-fly reprojection, but actually it's to create copies of vector or raster that were reprojected using this grid technique. And so, and we added a few countries here.
That's awesome. And so that will I saw in the plugin it gave just an explicit path to the GSP file, so that will save you having to copy it into like a system directory.
No, it's the plugin that under the hood downloads the grid files.
But in the project definition that it made, it showed like a path to your home directory, and then if you open that one there, if you look in profiles, yeah, where it says innate grids equals, yeah. So that saves you having to put it in the system directory, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, these grid files can be placed everywhere. Then, of course, in the projection definition, you have to have this parameter not grids with a path pointing to where the file is. But if this file is in the user local share proj folder, it's not necessary to use a full path. How it's called?
Like the system.
The complete path.
Absolute path. Yeah.
The absolute path. Yeah.
Great. That's really, I learned something now from that. That's really interesting. Thank you. Luigi's joined the room. So maybe Luigi, you want to come in and just tell us a bit more about what you were trying to do with...
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Luigi, I offered you a pair of headphones, new.
Yeah.
And you're still using crappy ones.
Yeah, really. No, it's that you give me. Well, probably my laptop that is not good. Using free software is always a problem. So,
do you want to share your screen, Luigi, and show us what you're trying to do?
Yeah, but probably I already found. I can share you. Where is sharing? Share. Take it in. The screen. Okay, I'm sharing now. Can you see something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you see? I'm trying to have a model, and that have to get a layer from DB with some fixed name tables, and I'm trying to create a model that just set up this table name. But for example, I'm using this element that is connection name, the connection schema and table, and I expected that generate something like the end of this element generate something like a data source that I can use to load a layer, but it's not.
I think it just creates a string that you can reference in like building a little mini expression.
Yeah, but the problem that I can create an expression. I have to create manually the source. Yeah, that's I found the comment in the code here. It's just third identical to string. Just check now. Yeah, I was supposed to create a reference, but I've found right now this the answer. Sorry for the noise. That's I have to create a source by hand. Okay.
But for interest, can you show us what your algorithm is doing?
The algorithm now is doing nothing because I was trying. It was at the beginning of the to get
process.
The idea is to I'm creating some models about file stuff, and what is doing nothing this moment. Really?
I think we should have on the next Quack Day just a dive into processing and ask people to bring their awesome models that they've made and show us what they do.
Yeah, I have a complex model. I don't know if you want.
Yeah, show us. Let's have a look.
It's opening. This is a complex model.
And you've used this technique, like I was showing before, to use sub models inside of it as well. I see. Yeah.
Yeah, this is all submodels. These are submodels that. And this was done with 3.10. That there weren't a lot of possibility to that we have now to manage inputs in different way. So it was limited. Now the client decided to move to new LTR because it was all late due to COVID. So I'm moving. This is being validated, so it's already released to the client, and now I'm in the next step, creating new model that in this case are all models managing managing indexes from raster, something like that.
How do you version control your models? Do you put it in Git?
That's a problem because well, I have a model in Git. I have a repo with I have a repo that they still decided to have the repo private, so I can share, but they want to share at the end when after validation. And the model is a plugin that installs models automatically. And a problem that we have, that I have, is really doing the versioning of model, because just doing this is a great change in the model, and it's a problem. Probably we have to move from XML to YAML, that is, or something that manage the XML, leaving the position of the stuff. But there is a model that allow writing XML following the what we have to find, following the maintaining the sequence, alphabetical sequence or something else, like an ordered dictionary. But we have to work on that. We should work on that. It's a problem. For me, it's a problem. Version.
Yeah. And yeah, that's great. Do you want to stick around and help answer some of the other questions that come up? I'm sure Giovanni won't mind to have
To me.
assistance.
I was looking at other questions, Tim. I think there are a couple of ones that I can have quick answers.
Okay.
So there is one from Cesar Herrera that, from what I understand, seems to say that they have a PostGIS project with PostGIS layer, but on some machines, opening these projects seems causing problems, crashes, while on other it does not. Well,
let me read his question out just for the audience so they can. So he said, but he actually said, I think, without. So he said, my question is related to the simultaneous use of several people without having to use PostGIS. So he wants to have a multi-user environment with no PostGIS. I have verified that if several people open the same QGIS/QGZ file, the program crashes. On the other hand, I think it is possible to have several identical QGIS files that call the same layer. In this case, the program does not close and allows multiple people to view the project. Is there a correct way to multi-user without actually using PostGIS? So I think the reason he mentioned PostGIS is because he might have been storing the project file inside of PostGIS, if I understand the question correctly.
Yeah, so I think that maybe the problem it is the type of data source that they are using. If they are not using a database because they can't or don't want, maybe they are storing in shape files and or geo packages. And well, I'm not sure if I got totally the question, but
so I think he wants to basically have a .qgis file sitting on his disk, maybe accessing a few shape files, like so the project file references a few shape files, and then have multiple people open that same project file at the same time.
Well,
and
I think that with shape files, I probably that is a good recipe for disaster. If they are shape files. Well, using something more advanced like GeoPackage or Special Light, I think that it should allow multiple access of the same data source. I would be surprised if not. So here we are missing a piece of information, that is what is the type of data source that the file-based data source that they are using. But if they are using shapefile,
so he's saying in the chat that the data is in a geo package.
Geo package, okay.
Geo package has the same problem as a shapefile in a way that it's not really designed for concurrent users to be. Although for read access it should be okay, right? But
I didn't know that.
That's usually when we tell people to go and use Postgres when they're trying to, or PostGIS when they're having multiple users trying to work with the same data at the same time.
Yeah, geo package is not supposed. SQLite is not supposed to manage concurrency. It's a fundamental of the format. So,
but there was some. If not wrong, there was some development or optimization in this sense lately. I think that I read something in the tickets or in the commits about this matter. Now that I think about it, but anyway, if you're saying that they can, there are people that they can open the project pointing to geo packages and other do not with the very same project files.
I think what he said is that they can open it, but some of them will get crashes happening. I'm gonna while you're chatting, I'm gonna try to make like a little example and see if we can replicate it here. Yeah.
What I wasn't trying to say is that if they have the same project pointing to the same data sources, but on different machine it works, and on another machine it doesn't work, I would try, the first things I would try, it would be to create a new user profile, a new QGIS profile, and see if it makes any difference. Maybe
back to question one. Everything comes back to question one. Have you made a new user profile?
Yeah. Well, maybe it's not related at all, but we want to exclude that there is some plugin that it's interfering. And if the issue continues, that of course the suggestion in this case is to open a ticket and with some example project and data source, so we can investigate it. Then there is the question from Hans van der Past. I'm not sure
You did an excellent job of saying his name.
So in older QGIS version, we could choose output raster formats in the processing tools. Now the Saga tools, for example, only output DAT, SDAT, that is the native raster Saga format. What was the reason for the choice? Well, this was a change that was by design. So here in this case, if Niall is around or Alexander Brew is around, they could of course give the exact and precise explanation. What I remember, if I'm not wrong, that this choice was related with the fact that Saga always first outputs in this format as that, and then if we wanted to get another format out of it, I don't know, say GeoTIFF, okay, we had to do an extra step under the hood. An extra step with Saga, of course, and translate this SDAT to, say, GeoTIFF. And this meant also the need to choose parameters like resampling, okay? And this caused a lot of discussion and misunderstandings because because of this resampling done on the fly, the output was not as expected, and this caused a lot of confusion. So I think that main reason to only output US data now is that that is the data set as it is created by Saga, and then it is up to the user to take this data set and translate it with the, for example, with the resampling option that if he or she finds more appropriate.
I've just been testing while you're talking. I think I'm sharing my screen. Hopefully I am. So if I use like some tools, then I can say like convert map to raster, for example, and I say save to file. Then I can get all the list of options here. And when I try a Saga one, I get only SStat. So maybe Hans, you can tell us which specific tool you were using.
Yeah, it was a Saga tool. I think that it was
it was a Saga tool.
Yeah.
So Saga will only put out to SStat, and then to get it from SStat to TIFF, you need to run another convert.
An extra step that we before in the past we did it
for you.
We did it for the user, but there were issues because if I'm not wrong, were related especially with the resampling parameters. And also now that I'm thinking about it, we had also issues because unfortunately among Saga versions, sometimes there are parameters of tools that change their names, and this is not very convenient, and it was really not convenient for us to try to keep all these changes, and so maybe this was also one of the reasons that made the developer remove this extra step.
Okay, great. Hans says, thank you for the answer. And Alexandros Neto is saying, if, for example, the next tool is also Saga, then you can basically take the SStat from one Saga tool to the next without having to convert backwards and forwards in formats. Great.
It's now popped out a question. Maybe Tim, you want to answer it. It is possible to create a globe in QGIS which you can turn around.
I showed a really horrible thing I made once before, but it was. I think the short answer is no. It's not really possible to make a globe. There was a plugin to do this. But when I tried it last time, I think it wasn't working so well for me. I did mention it in the stream here.
There was a plugin actually for a long time. We had a globe tool in
the QGIS globe.
That
even not a plugin, but part of QGIS core.
But that tool also went unmaintained, as far as I know. And
you can ask Marco Bernasocchi. He's, I think, one of the main contributors to that. But I think it was a tool that if you wanted to crash QGIS, you could pretty much run that tool, and then you would get a crash. For me, anyway. And I think it's been replaced by all the new 3D stuff that is in QGIS now. But 3D in QGIS at the moment doesn't really do a globe. So. I did show, I can try to share my screen, a silly thing that I tried to make once, which is completely useless, but still fun. Let me try to see. Is my screen sharing?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what I came up with, but it wasn't really doing a proper globe. It was just using like an azimuthal projection and then moving the LO line incrementally and then saving it out to images. Anyway, if you want to have some fun playing with what I did, you can try it. But you can also see lots of issues with it and rendering artifacts. In fact, it's only showing like the whole world on half hemisphere of the globe as well. So it's pretty stupid, but it was fun to make.
Okay, then we have a question from Geob Nepal. It says, how to solve this type of problems in QGIS? Where should the manufacturing plant be located to minimize overall transportation cost? ArcGIS has a solid set of tools on location. So yes, I agree. It is known that ArcGIS has very good tools for do networking analysis. Well, I'm not sure if I'm sharing or not.
Let me put you on. Sorry. Okay, I think it's... we can't see your screen right now, but if you share it, we should see it.
Can you see now?
Yes.
Okay. So in this case, if you have a look at the processing toolbox under the GRASS group, you have a set of tools that are called the v.net, v.network, and actually these are very handy set of tools to do advanced network analysis in QGIS. The good thing about GRASS tools compared to, for example, to Saga ones, it's that documentation it is very good. So the documentation in GRASS it's very command line centric, okay, because well, it's its own native way to work, despite having its own graphical user interface. But then the parameters that are shown here in the QGIS user interface do match the ones that you find in the documentation. Okay.
It's like looking at a Jupyter notebook in a way when you browse that, because they do each command and then show you the output.
Yeah,
so it's quite easy to follow.
Yeah, and so there are a lot of stuff here for network analysis. So if you want to solve the salesman problem, you have a specific tool for that. If you want to compute isochrones, you have a specific tool for that. And personally, I frequently show examples of network analysis with these tools in my training, and the most difficult part for doing this kind of analysis, it's actually preparing the data. The tools itself is not they are not that complicated to use. But if the data it is not well prepared, so if there are so if the streets are not snapped, if the costs attributes are not defined, if the speed is not defined, so you may not get what you need. To do this kind of analysis, it's fundamental to have very solid data.
Maybe you can also mention that long time ago, I think Martin Dubiash wrote his own network analysis library, and if you search network there, you'll see QGIS the network analysis one there. I think these are all from his original thing. So there used to actually be a separate little panel, which is now gone. If you go view panels, I don't think we have it anymore. But if you go to QGIS 2, there used to be like a view panel, and then there was like a network analysis toolbox that you could use. So we do have some algorithms that are native QGIS ones, but I think they're much more basic than all the things you can do with the GRASS tools. Of course, with processing, you can chain the two things together if you want to as well.
Yeah. Okay, then there are a few questions here that will definitely need some thinking or exploring. These about the coordinates in degrees and minutes in the map composer.
So what we could just mention, what we discussed is for ones that need a bit more prep time, because we only got this question this morning, we'll probably do another session like this next Quack Day, and maybe have a bit of chance to prepare and come up with something for those ones. Yeah. So if you can't answer it straight away, that's fine. Let's talk about the one above it quickly. I want to create polygons for existing buildings and walkways after importing a CSV file with lat, long, and Z. So again, probably if you're going to send us a question, it'd be great if you could prepare a little sample data set for us to look at, so we can properly understand the data you're working with, because I think there's not enough information in this question for us to really answer it. But
for example, here I would ask what is in the CSV files. If it is lat long, means that it is points with the Z attribute, but then the question is about polygons and lines. So it's not really clear. This one about what's the recommended way to set the default for map composer. Okay, if you go in the QGIS general options and you go in layouts, you can define some defaults.
Not the ones he's looking for.
Yeah. So, but I guess that as usual with open source, if it is needed, it should be possible to add here more defaults. But so at the moment, the defaults that you can find are the ones that you can see here. Then I would also have a look at this question. This about that says auto projection doesn't always work, converting to WGS84 works most of the time, but pseudo-Mercado or other projection that use metric don't. I will have a look at this data, and also I can try and test if there is any difference between using QGIS on macOS or other platform. I like this. I like to explore, so to speak, this kind of tickets related with data and projection. So I will try to get back to Juan Carlos Bravo next time or here in the week.
Giovanni, just reload the page as well, because there's another nice quick one from Ismail at the bottom of the list that I've just added, which is about, can you make the map view so that it's not pointing north up?
This question reminds me a ticket in the bug tracker where there is a very interesting and thread. And I think that it's in thread. It's also involved with Gavin. That it's your friend, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that this was about a specific coordinate reference system for South Africa or Namibia, and the discussion was if it was correct to QGIS show it north up or north down. But I don't remember the exact details.
Yeah, so we have this weird north-facing projection, I forget which way around it is, projection where everything's basically upside down on the map. But yeah. I think, isn't a short answer to Ismail's question just to use the rotation? I don't know if he was talking about the map rotation or dealing with a special coordinate reference system, which is actually not north up.
Yeah, I think the obvious answer would be to use map rotation, but I'm also not clear if you wanted to do on the map canvas or in a composer.
I left out the second half of his question, which is that I'm going to lunch now, so I won't see the answers. So we can't ask him any more questions about what he was trying to do. But maybe you could quickly just show the rotation option in the map canvas,
okay.
just in case this was actually all he was trying to do.
So this is vector layer, simple vector layer, and here at the bottom we have a rotation parameter, and you can change this parameter and get your layers rotated at whatever angle you may need. Of course, this was very quick because it's a very small vector layer. If your project is complex with many layers, this can take.
I think the example would have worked better if you had a picture of Ismail Sunni's lunch in the middle of the screen and you rotated that upside down. That would have been great. Giovanni, I think we will start to wrap up. It's been actually great fun, and I hope the people in the stream enjoyed the chat. If you enjoyed it, we'll do it again, and maybe we can build up. A lot of the questions came in a bit last minute, so it would be helpful for us if you could, I guess we advertise that we're doing and Ask Me Anything sooner, so that you got time to compose your question, but also if you can try to get us the questions as soon as you see the announcement, because then we have a bit of time to ask you what do you actually mean or what have you, and maybe we can ask people just to be a little bit more descriptive without writing an essay, but just of what they're trying to do. Have you got any last thoughts? Do you want to promote a little bit yourself, your company, and where can people go to find out your services? And
yes and no. I'm not like much to advertise myself, but maybe we can invite people when all this pandemic thing is ended. We can invite people to here to Portugal. We both live. Me and Tim, we live in the same region, but we have many other community members around. Portugal is not that big, and maybe the next in-person Hackfest could be in a very nice country place, somewhere around here. I highly suggested.
Yeah, I think it would be wonderful to have another. It was back in 2013 we had the Lisbon Hackfest, or when was that?
It was in 2011 in Lisbon,
2011.
and in 2018 in Madeira. In Madeira, it was a little bit rainy, but yeah.
So yeah, it would be great to do that, and I look forward to doing this with you again. Thank you so much for sharing your time and all your vast knowledge. I learned quite a few things today just watching you do the answers. So that's really nice of you too.
I don't think so, but okay.
Yeah, and hopefully you'll be keen to come back and do this next month. Of course. Yeah, great. And I think we'll maybe, if other people, it was great, Luigi, for you to pop in. If other people are around and you want to pop in and help to answer, or to even maybe people can come and ask the questions in the chat room. That's also fine. We're still getting to grips with the technology of doing the streaming and all that stuff. So sorry if we had a little glitch in the middle, but practice makes perfect. Next time we'll do it better. So, I think we'll wrap up there. Thank you very, very much, Giovanni. And
you're welcome, and have a nice weekend, everyone.
Yeah, goodbye, everybody. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.